There are those who say, let me welcome you to the Paul C. Wilt Phi Kappa Phi Faculty Lecture Series. I would like to appeal to a sense of altruism on the part of any of you. If we could move some of you from this side of the room to that side of the room, then altogether apart from not humiliating people who come in late, we would not be disrupting the speaker by having people pass in front of her. So, we have open seats over here. And it's very good to know that altruism is alive and well among some of us. A word about the format tonight. This is the Paul C. Wilt Phi Kappa Phi Lecture Series, and we are delighted to have Dr. Paul C. Wilt with us tonight. The format of the evening is we will have an address followed by responses from two respondents. Then our speaker will be able to respond to those respondents, and then we'll have time for questions and answers and conversation from the floor. So as you're listening, be preparing your questions. Our speaker tonight, Dr. Felicia Song, has a bachelor's degree in history from Yale, a master's in communication studies from Northwestern, and a PhD in sociology from University of Virginia. So she's a one-person interdisciplinary project. And with degrees from Yale, Northwestern, and the University of Virginia, that's about as prestigious as you can get. She taught at Louisiana State University, and she's now in her second year at Westmont as chair of the sociology department. She found that sociology provided the theoretical foundations for understanding social and cultural change, and her research interests lie at the intersection of the sociology of culture and the sociology of technology. Specifically, she's been interested in how media and culture shape our contemporary experiences of identity, relationship, and community. To what extent are our lives shaped by the way we use our cell phones, shaped by the way we use Facebook? To what extent does that channel our interests and concerns in ways that we think we don't have alternatives to? She's at work on a book-length project tentatively titled Mom Blogging, Narratives of Transformation and Rebranding. Her address tonight is titled More Than a Mommy Blogger, Renegotiating Identity in Motherhood and Social Media. Dr. Song.
Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for your generous introduction. In the past several years, a new genre of online writing called mommy blogs has been changing the lives of contemporary mothers, both as readers and as bloggers. Mommy blogs are web pages where mothers chronicle their experience and reflection on family life and parenting. They first rose to prominence as sources of social support and community and have since evolved into a savvy industry as corporations have come to recognize these so-called mommy bloggers as a powerful source of influence and social media expertise. In light of these developments, the news media has tended to construct a particularly striking image of mommy bloggers and their enterprise. Consider the following headlines. New York Times, 2010. Honey, don't bother mommy, I'm too busy building my brand. Forbes, 2011. Does anyone really take mommy bloggers seriously? Forbes, 2012, death to mommy bloggers. Huffington Post, 2014, the dark side of mommy blogs. And my personal favorite, in 2013, the Wall Street Journal ran an article about blogging conferences for women, which included a full spread of cartoon illustrations titled The Mommy Business Trip, portraying what might be called mothers gone wild when released from their homes and maternal responsibilities. First, an image of mothers taking selfies with friends at a dance party. Next, an image of a mother sleeping in with a caption reading, "Kids? What kids?" Then, an image of a mother watching TV in the hotel room. And finally, an image of a mother lying on the ground, quote, attacking the minibar, indiscriminately scarfing down a bag of chips. Such thinly veiled expressions of moral condemnation when mothers are imagined in spaces outside of the home and away from their children, and other media representations like these have generally constructed an image of mommy blogging as online navel-gazing at the expense of spending quality time with one's children, or superficial women's talk that garners comments and social media drama the way old-fashioned gossip used to move through a neighborhood. The subtext in these articles usually implies that these women act and think as if they deserve serious consideration, when in fact they are actually playing at things that are better left to the professionals. The very term mommy blogger is one that for many women bloggers is fraught with derision, as it renders mothers in diminutive terms, infantilizing them. But others have purposefully chosen to own the label as a political one, seeking to legitimize the status of motherhood. These varied stances demonstrate competing views about how women ought to negotiate their identities as mothers. In this talk, I will be using the term mom bloggers and mom blogosphere to reference this group of women and their work. My research on mom bloggers has primarily been focused on the culture of mom bloggers and their narratives, the ones they construct about their maternal and professional identities. This project has involved attending multiple social media conferences designed for women in social media or parent bloggers, interviewing women bloggers who I've met at these conferences, and conducting a survey of women of color in social media. The data collection process has been utterly fascinating as I have found myself drawn into a world that is more real in ways that I had not expected. The topic of mommy blogging draws together several different literatures on identity, motherhood, digital technology, to communities and consumer culture, and would take much too long to unpack how they all connect. So my hope for this evening is to introduce you to the mom blogging industry and to demonstrate how mom bloggers have used blogging and social media conferences to create a legitimate cultural space of expanded public discourse and sought to achieve personal and collective empowerment within the social and cultural contexts that largely marginalize them as women and as mothers. To do this, I'll be borrowing on conceptual apparatus from the scholarly work done on fan cultures. The study of fandom has long been interested in what functions fan communities play in the lives of fans, and why fandom lacks social and cultural legitimacy. Because there are striking parallels between fans and mom bloggers, I believe there's much to gain in analyzing their experiences with the same theoretical framework, and I have looked forward to trying it out with you all tonight and seeing whether it works. So, to outline how I will proceed, first I'll provide some background on mom bloggers and the evolution of the mom blogosphere. Next, I'll introduce some theoretical tools from the fandom literature and use them to examine how social media conferences for women function as a powerful site of what Pierre Bourdieu calls capital accumulation, and explore how the blogging community seeks to convert this capital into social prestige and economic gains that the mainstream culture will recognize. Finally, I'll conclude with some reflections on how commercial recognition both empowers and constrains mom bloggers and ultimately prove to be limiting in shifting contemporary sensibilities about motherhood. So first, some background on the evolution of the mom blogosphere. The rapid rise of mommy blogging is just one of many new genres of digital media that have catapulted into ubiquity since the internet's seismic shift from the ancient days of message boards and chat rooms back in the 90s to social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. According to social media evangelists, because of social media, ordinary people like you and me are now poised with digital megaphones and tools of production that can arguably match the reach and production value of media content created by industry professionals. The empowering potential of social media has been so fundamental that scholars and industry observers have felt inspired to invent new terminology to describe our new selves, no longer relegated to the faceless categories of audience or consumer. We are now prosumers, influencers, and media actives. And with these new tools, things were supposed to change. Social media was supposed to democratize information and empower the marginalized. Long-standing gatekeepers and social hierarchies were supposed to be disrupted by citizen journalism and amateur bloggers on this newly leveled playing field. Combining the newfound capacity for content creation and networking capacities that can connect like-minded bloggers and their respective readerships, blogs in particular possessed the potential to alter the balance of powers. In 2004, 4 million blogs populated the internet. By 2011, Nielsen reported 181 blogs worldwide. And by 2014, estimates reach up to 247 million blogs, just on two of the most popular blogging platforms, Tumblr and WordPress alone. Of course, this snapshot only gives us a sense of how many blogs were created, and we have little data on how many blogs have been since deleted or abandoned, two of which are probably mine. Nevertheless, this tremendous wave of user-generated content has made blogs an alternative source for news, political commentary, and information about practically anything under the sun. Blogs have also commanded enough authority that traditional news media, public figures, and organizations have needed to recognize blogs as a social force that deserves keeping one's eye on. For these reasons, feminist scholars have argued that the blogosphere has the potential to improve the status of women by amplifying their visibility and helping women work towards social change. So it's from within this breathless enthusiasm for the empowering potential of social media that mommy blogs emerge. From the beginning, what made these blogs so compelling was that women were given voice to authentic, even raw accounts of motherhood over and against the more sanitized and sentimental scripts that prevail in mainstream culture. As Anne Douglas put it, these blogs were appealing to contemporary mothers because they were not, quote, sliced, diced, homogenized, and filtered, but rather, quote, they reflected the reality and the messiness of real life, so that women not only felt their own experiences affirmed, but felt less isolated when the standard blogging practices of leaving comments and linking to other blogs helped them connect with a community of women who affirmed their experiences. Whether they blogged about postpartum depression, having a child develop autism, or entering motherhood as a recovering alcoholic, many of these mom bloggers cathartically wrote their way through their pain and were sustained by the spontaneous support they received online. As one blogger put it plainly, blogging saved my life. The powerful experience of journeying with these women in real time drew loyal readers, many of whom were undergoing the same suffering and finding relief in the safe space of an organic community emerging around each blog. Such blogs have been particularly important ways of negotiating the dominant culture of intensive mothering that has defined so much of contemporary motherhood. This culture is one where prevailing expectations of good mothering demands a heavy investment of time, energy, and resources, where prescriptions about women's role in the public and private realms are hard-fought matters, and failed mothers are continually faced with the removal of their children. Against this backdrop, the mom blogosphere has become an authentic space where mothers could talk about what is taboo in polite company, be affirmed in their weakness, and supported in their failures. As communities formed around these authentic spaces of marginalized discourse, mom bloggers have also had occasion to flex their collective muscle, give voice to dissenting views, and even evoke changes in corporate behavior. Veteran mom bloggers still share battle stories about how they successfully called for the removal of a television commercial for the pain reliever Motrin, which questioned the use of baby carriers and ridiculed those who valued the philosophy of attachment parenting. Others fondly remember how they protested Facebook's policy of removing photos of breastfeeding mothers by coordinating to bombard the Facebook server with their own pictures of themselves breastfeeding. These instances of successful mobilization led many mom bloggers to believe that social media might actually help women bring about political and civic change. Since then, what began as a trend among women blogging on issues related to parenting has since become a wide-ranging network of women who blog not only about family, food, and fashion, but also business, education, and political change. Witnessing this persuasive combination of authenticity and activism exhibited by the mom blogosphere, corporations and marketing firms awakened to the fact that mom bloggers were powerful opinion leaders. With mid-tier bloggers commanding a regular following of 5,000 readers, these women represented the future of what the industry called word-of-mouth marketing. To corporate America, mom bloggers translated into, quote, authenticity that can be used, and were seen as an effective means to reaching and influencing a consumer market of mothers that was worth over $1.7 trillion in annual spending. To this end, corporations began allocating advertising and marketing resources towards engaging in blogger outreach, using free giveaways and expense-paid trips to woo bloggers to review their products and become brand ambassadors. Consider, for example, Jessica Smith, 32 years old, mother of a 3-year-old boy, and author of JessicaKnows.com. I checked recently, it doesn't exist anymore. She's moved on to bigger and better things. Because of her relative success as a blogger back then, she had opportunities to write on behalf of Walmart, Ford, and Electronic Arts, the video game maker. After a favorable review, Ford gave her a Flex crossover vehicle and gas card for a whole year. She was also chosen to be one of 12 bloggers flown to Santa Barbara by Electronic Arts to work out with Oprah's personal trainer. During her time here, she was put up at the Four Seasons Biltmore Resort as she and the other bloggers blogged through a 30-day challenge using a fitness video program for the Nintendo Wii. Jessica was just one of hundreds of mid-level mom bloggers who have been exploring the revenue-generating potential of monetizing their blogs with advertisements, product reviews, sponsorships, and consulting gigs. These bloggers and corporate entities alike were well aware of how celebrity mom bloggers like Heather Armstrong of Deuce or Ree Drummond of Pioneer Women fame capably parlayed their blogging business into personal media empires. To reach those heights, each woman was boasting website traffic rates of 4 million and 21.5 million page views per month, respectively, which translated into average blog incomes of $10,000 to $40,000 a month. With such unprecedented degree of interest in mom bloggers and their influence, the mom blogosphere has rapidly evolved from being merely a site of creative and cathartic expression to a media and networking platform that possesses significant status-enhancing and commercial potential. While the journey from blogging as a hobby to blogging as a profession is often varied, the starting point in the story is usually one of discontent and is often most poignantly life-changing for those who self-identify as just stay-at-home mothers. These mom bloggers often speak of being invisible to the world. As one speaker put it, many women started as a, quote, mom who was subservient to the needs of their family, always giving to others and inferior in society's eyes. But when they started blogging, each mother discovered personal recognition and validation, not only through other women who affirmed their experiences, but also through corporate brands and advertisers who are interested in their blog and their influence. In her words, blogs make us something. And while the news media often portray mom bloggers as privileged white stay-at-home mothers, the community of bloggers actually has included an influential group of women of color and a significant percentage of mothers who have full-time jobs. Leading bloggers often did or still have careers in public relations, journalism, or marketing, and many have professional expertise with digital technology. While most bloggers are uniform in their college education and middle to upper class status, the mom blogosphere reflects more of the diversity at work in contemporary motherhood than most realize. With this brief overview of the evolution of mom blogging, let's take a look at how the study of fandom then offers conceptual tools that help illuminate their cultural significance. So the study of fan cultures began in the 1980s when media scholars were interested in exploring the social functions of fandom and defending its cultural legitimacy by recontextualizing fandom within existing systems of power. That is, viewing fandom as a means of negotiating one's status within social and cultural hierarchies. So just in case if you're still confused when I say fandom, I'm not talking about fans, right? But fans as in fans of television shows and movies and music, right? That type of fan. So media theorist John Fiske drew on Pierre Bourdieu's theory of cultural economy to argue that fandom is a cultural space that allows those who are disempowered by any combination of gender, age, class, or race to legitimately express their marginalized interests and concerns. According to Bourdieu, every culture functions like an economic system in that it distributes its resources unequally by promoting and privileging certain cultural tastes and competencies over others. So behaviors and dispositions that are socially and institutionally legitimated form an official culture, and individuals strive to gain social status by investing and accumulating capital, that is, acquiring certain tastes, skills, or dispositions that are considered acceptable. While some individuals may be socially positioned to be more easily to more easily accumulate capital, for example, getting a college education or having family connections with people in high places, others who are disempowered in their social location may turn to alternative cultural systems for accumulating capital and gaining status. Therefore, fans can be understood as participating in fan communities in order to build cultural capital and gain status within a subculture that mimics the structures of official culture, what Fiske termed a shadow culture. In this light, senior scholar Henry Jenkins writes that women's participation in fandom can be viewed as a movement from the social and cultural isolation imposed upon them as women within a patriarchal society toward participation in a community that is receptive to their contributions and gives them a sense of dignity and respect. For some women, Jenkins continues, fandom may even offer a training ground for the development of professional skills and an outlet for creative impulses constrained by their workday lives. So notably, for fans then, a key site for cultivating cultural capital is through attendance and participation at conventions, such as the Comic Con or the Super Con. If anyone is a comic fan, you would know what those are. Writing about comic fandom, Brown observed, the con, right, these conventions, is seen by many fans as an individual's final point of entry into the social order of comic culture. It is a place for fans to accumulate and demonstrate their cultural knowledge. So while fans may experience newfound validation for their skills and interests within this shadow culture, the perennial problem that traditional mass media fans have faced is that they often lack the ability to convert this capital into economic gain or social legitimacy in the mainstream context of official culture. Put more plainly, an organizer of a Star Trek convention might have been valued for his contributions within the fan community, but typically did not find that he had new career opportunities or increased earning power because of this status. Later, I'll argue that unlike traditional fans, mom bloggers have been more successful in this matter of convertibility and discuss why it's the case. So in sum, what the fandom literature provides for us are two key ideas. One, the need to contextualize cultural production, whether it's fandom or mom blogging, within existing social hierarchies in order to better understand their significance. And two, to view this cultural production as a means of capital accumulation that grants social legitimacy to those who are typically disenfranchised. So let's now apply these ideas to the mom blogosphere by first locating mom bloggers within a particular social hierarchy, the tech industry, and then frame the mom blogosphere as a cultural space in which mothers are engaging in cultural labor that potentially moves them beyond their subordinated status as mothers in official culture. Okay, so first to establish the marginalization of the mom blogger. I'd like to offer a few brief examples of how mom bloggers have been devalued and trivialized because of their status as women and as mothers in the official culture of the social media industry, the blogosphere, and even in their homes. One way to situate mom blogging within their social hierarchy is to consider the long-standing normative separation between the domestic, private realm of home, hearth, and women, and the worldly, public realm of business, industry, and men. According to these norms, the activities of women and mothers are often perceived to be located outside of the official culture and relegated to the murky arenas of gossip, girl talk, and the women's world. This divide commonly undergirds the persistent trends in gender inequality in the workplace and is strikingly apparent in the social media industry, which lacks employee diversity in general and has a shockingly low number of women in leadership positions at major companies such as Google, Facebook, and Twitter. As Alice Marwick has recently argued in her study on Silicon Valley culture, one of the most disappointing features of this digital elite that celebrates liberation and openness and empowerment is its surprising degree of gender discrimination, as she documented the multiple ways in which technologically sophisticated women have little or no legitimate status in this male-dominated industry, even when they are highly accomplished. Given this context, blogging takes mom bloggers not only into an industry that is largely characterized by inequality, but also into a blogosphere where women's dominant modes of engagement and content are generally undervalued. Despite the fact that there has always been equal numbers of men and women involved in blogs, and that women actually outpace men in social media usage, almost exclusive attention by news media and scholars alike is paid to male-authored blogs, particularly political blogs, which incidentally only constitute 13% of blogs. In this way, while mom bloggers do benefit from the community-building affordances of blogging technology, their voices often remain segregated, as the blogosphere is highly gendered in its divide between women who tend to blog about personal or lifestyle topics and men who tend to blog about politics and sports. Those women who do venture into the male-dominated parts of the blogosphere are often criticized and harassed in those spaces. So while mom bloggers are often sidelined as women from participating in or being valued by the official culture of the social media industry, their marginalization only increases when they occupy their social position as mothers. On the home front, mom bloggers frequently report finding their work trivialized by their spouses who see their work as merely socializing with their, quote, little internet friends. Because the work of blogging usually does not take them to an external office with a visible set of colleagues, their online endeavors tend to be delegitimized, and normed out of the official culture of work. For another example of how powerfully the norms circumscribing motherhood have penetrated our cultural assumptions, we can look to a case where mom bloggers were marginalized by the female blogging community itself. In 2005, BlogHer, the premier blog collective that networks women bloggers online, hosted its first conference that was to address the problem of women facing unequal recognition in the blogosphere. In one of its discussions, a comment was made to imply that bloggers who just blogged about feelings, families, and parenting weren't the same as those who blogged about, quote, important matters. Famously, the assertion was made, if you women stopped blogging about yourselves, you could change the world. Veteran blogger Alice Bradley then retorted, mommy blogging is a radical act. For some mothers, it's a powerful step toward unmasking motherhood. This incident succinctly captures how assumptions about the inferiority of mothers' activities in the public sphere are held not only by men or male-dominated institutions, but also exercised and engendered by fellow women themselves. Therefore, these examples demonstrate that as mom bloggers document their personal experiences in the public sphere, the prevailing cultural hierarchies fail to grant legitimacy to their activities as women and as mothers. So, having established that mom bloggers lack status in the official culture, it's useful then to view their engagement in the mom blogosphere as a means of constructing and validating new social identities and gaining solidarity in the acknowledgement of their marginalized identities. And so for this, mom bloggers typically turn to the social media conference. Okay, so when a mom blogger is interested in blogging as a profession, she might consider attending a blogging conference as a way to jumpstart that process. And instead of signing up for one of the big industry conferences like Blog World, she can choose from a whole range of social media conferences, especially tailored to female bloggers or parent bloggers, such as BlogHer, Blistum, Blogalicious, Type A Parent, or Mom 2.0 Summit. These are all conferences I've been to. Now, most of these conferences are offshoots of existing blog networks and were established as opportunities for contributors to meet and mentor each other and engage with industry thought leaders and influencers. Ranging in attendance from 200 to 1,000 participants, each conference tends to have its own flavor and emphasis, and drawing from a particular region of the country. Their format typically mirrors the standard tech conferences of Silicon Valley with plenary sessions, workshops, invitation-only VIP sessions, and expo centers. Now, while emulating the format of a tech conference can be seen as mom bloggers attempt to gain entry into the official culture of the social media industry, I like to argue that given the specific forms of marginalization these women commonly experience, the conference moves beyond providing the standard opportunities of networking and learning the business of social media and engages at a more fundamental level of personal validation and identity formation. So as a legitimate cultural space, the social media conference is in itself very often a symbolic affirmation of these women who are typically subordinated. For each conference serves to incarnate the relationships, networks, and blogging industry that mom bloggers typically experience as an exclusively virtual phenomenon. Participants often say that the sheer experience of physically sitting in a room in real time with peers and thought leaders who they had until then only encountered online is one of the most exciting and gratifying aspects of conference attendance. A significant part of the joy in meeting each other is to encounter the actual women behind recognizable blogging or Twitter handles, such as uppercase woman, tech-savvy mama, or Spanglish baby. Mom bloggers also refer to the communal dimension of conferences as being life transformative. Take, for example, one woman standing to testify to the significance of attending the Blogalicious conference the year before. She began by introducing herself. She stood up and said, "I am the broke socialite." This statement of self-identification with her blogger name, the broke socialite, alone drew collective gasps as women around the room turned their heads to discover the actual flesh and blood identity of the woman behind the popular lifestyle blog they had read and admired. She began to weep as she proceeded. "I get so emotional because I think for so many of us last year was very much a spiritual experience. If you were in that room and whatever your spirit is, it was moving. Not only did I walk away more complete, I felt like I had met some missing pieces of my soul. I'm a nerd girl, and nobody really gets me. And I felt like I walked away with all of these new friends who really, really get me. And last year, I decided here that I was going to walk away from my cube because I was being beaten down by corporate America. And sure enough, in April, I did it. Everyone says, 'Oh, you're so great.' No, I'm not that great. It's the people who support me and undergird my dreams. That's the reason I've been able to accomplish the things that I have in such a short amount of time." So referring to herself as a nerd girl, this blogger had felt alone as a Black woman interested and skilled in computer technology until she had come to this conference for women of color who were bloggers and met others much like her. Now her identity not only felt complete, but she felt empowered by their presence in her life to quit her job and begin blogging full-time. Because so many of these women were building their blog businesses on their own and in the solitude of their homes, the conferences locate them as tangibly belonging to a fully embodied reality made up of real human beings. For some, this process of moving a purely online experience to an offline reality empowers them to make significant life changes. In addition to validating the realness of the blogging community, conference attendance also gives women the opportunity to be trained and reformed according to two counter-narratives that seeks to combat their subordinated status. The first counter-narrative involves reframing women's individual blogging efforts as being part of something bigger than themselves. The opening remarks of the Blogalicious conference stated that Blogalicious was, quote, "not just a conference, but a movement to unify women of color on social media and make markets aware of us as a force." The conference participants of Blogalicious not only constituted a digital sisterhood, quote, of social media pioneers, they were also championed as the quintessential market, representing women who possessed some of the highest levels of spending power, education, and work experience. So the assertion that these women were the first wave of trailblazers on the lead edge of something big was repeatedly made by conference organizers and speakers. So this discursive strategy of amplifying their social and cultural influence gives women who find their work typically trivialized counter-evidence that defends their actual value in the public sphere. Dovetailing this trailblazer narrative is the persistent exhortation that each mom blogger know your worth. Concerned about combating the tendencies of corporate sponsors to view mom bloggers as individuals who are accustomed to unpaid labor or amateurs who do not warrant compensation, conference speakers often encourage mom bloggers to recognize the skills and resources they possessed. While the message of know your worth refers to having an accurate sense of what your skills and social influence can monetarily convey in the marketplace, the call to know your worth also poignantly expressed a concern that these women in particular recognize their personal worth, having confidence in themselves. Many speakers would explicitly link women's tendency to lack self-esteem and undervalue their own contributions with the inability to actually believe the fact that they were indeed professionals. Speakers would urge conference participants by saying, "You are a social media marketer. You are a freelance writer. Don't say, 'I just have a blog.'" So while these counter-narratives can encourage women to develop dispositions and behaviors that defend their economic or cultural worth, what really primes them to be more readily able to embrace the reality of their value in official culture is in their direct contact with experiences, people, and products at these conferences. So a few words on the types of unusual encounters that they have at these conferences. Blogging conferences are typically held at 5-star luxury destination hotels like the Ritz-Carlton in major cities like Miami, San Francisco, and the shared experience of dance parties, wine tastings, and poolside spa experiences function to not only build community memories, but also serve to immerse mom bloggers in high-status leisure activities that starkly contrast from the mundane experiences of managing a household. Another indicator of capital that converts is mom bloggers' access to high-status individuals. Conferences often have celebrities and public figures, celebrity chefs from Food Network cooking meals, music performances by noted artists, interviews with public figures like Ariana Huffington. The presence of these celebrities, again, counter the media-constructed marginalization of the mom blogosphere and set it squarely in the middle of social media's official culture. And as if having a 5-star hotel or a block party DJ'd by Run DMC in the backdrop of your selfies is not sufficient evidence to your family and friends that your time spent with your little internet friends actually means serious business, further elevating the status of the mom blogosphere is the active presence of major corporate sponsors. General Electric, General Motors, McDonald's, Microsoft, Whirlpool, AT&T, all of these commercial sponsors are there seeking collaborations and partnerships with mom bloggers and affirming the role that these mom bloggers have played in expanding and enriching their consumer reach. And with real sponsors comes real swag. Upon registration, participants typically receive a tote filled with swag that easily surpasses the usual range of pens, pads, and plastic water bottles. Instead, mom bloggers are frequently privy to high-stakes swag, such as Fossil watches, Build-A-Bears, New Balance sneakers, or designer diaper bags. Furthermore, opportunities to win even larger items span through the conference proceeding. A year's worth of Kellogg's cereal, tablets, computers. While the role of swag at a conference may seem trivial or materialistic, its actual materiality lends weight to the social legitimacy of the conference, particularly to one's own family members when the mom blogger returns home with extra luggage filled with branded products. In sum, from hotel to celebrities, from the corporate sponsors to the swag, what distances the mom blogging conference from the Trekkie conference are the ways in which mom bloggers are able to successfully accumulate capital that converts to social legitimacy in official cultural terms. A woman who is successful in garnering a large following for her blog really can come away from a conference with new employment opportunities and has the potential to develop a professional identity as a legitimate expert in social media. So to conclude, and I know I'm running low on time here, just to recap where we've been. I've sought to provide some context for understanding mom bloggers as marginalized within the official cultures of the tech industry and the blogosphere. And I've discussed how discursive strategies and material realities at social media conferences help mom bloggers acquire new dispositions, behaviors, and tastes that grant them social legitimacy and status. So on the one hand, I want to argue that the mom blogosphere has been an extraordinarily empowering space. Women have spoken of the therapeutic value of blogging, how they've gained respect, confidence, and support in ways that they've never had before. They talk about finding their own tribe, and many have climbed the social ladder within the mom blogosphere and taken the opportunities that have come to gain experience in social media, earn some extra income, and give them some authority that then enables them to become conference speakers or workshop leaders at these conferences. Many mom bloggers have been able to successfully parlay their social networks and their digital skills into consumer influence that is valued as an economic asset to corporations. So in this way, what distinguishes the mom blogosphere from the traditional fan community of old is their ability to convert so much of the capital they have accumulated in their search for authentic community into economic gain and professional prestige. Now, curiously, one of the recent developments in conference discourse has been to talk of the blogging endeavor as just a means, that's exciting, just a means to achieve, for women to achieve their, quote, actual dreams, whether it is to become a published author, a lifestyle consultant, a radio personality, etc. And I'm still puzzling through the possible implications of this development. For it's not clear to me if mom blogging can retain its original DNA as a cultural practice. Should I try other lights on? Oh, is there a box here?
A box.
Dr. Tony, the breaker switch, all those turn on.
Thank you.
Okay. Should I proceed? Yeah, keep going? Okay. All right. So there's been this shift in the discourse, right? So in these conferences, increasingly blogging is being decentered, and it's being seen as just a means for women to become whatever it is they want to be, right? A published author, a lifestyle consultant, so forth. So what I'm trying to puzzle through is what this means. For it's not clear to me if mom blogging can retain its original DNA as a cultural practice that was primarily about community and authenticity, and then coincidentally was convertible into capital. Or if the authentic community has already become so thoroughly commodified that mom blogging will simply become defined by or esteemed for its very convertibility to other career aspirations, and therefore have its communal dimensions recede into the background. Already, fewer and fewer women self-identify as a mom blogger, and rather insist that they are more than a mommy blogger, and claim terms set by the industry, such as parent blogger or lifestyle blogger, or terms that position them more broadly, like social media expert. In this way, despite the fact that mom bloggers have earned real economic and cultural power through their entrepreneurial uses of their blogs to build an effective social media presence, mothers continue to lack symbolic power, that is, the ability to define what is legitimate according to their terms. And the power to define what is legitimate has remained solidly located with the market. And the mom blogosphere has not only been unable to change that dynamic, but may have become a perfect example of how powerful that reality really is. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Song. Our respondents will be Dr. Deborah Dunn and Dr. Wayne Iba. Dr. Dunn is professor of communication studies. He communicated finally. With a PhD from the University of Southern California. She's led 6 summer programs, with 4 of them focusing on conflict and reconciliation, especially in Northern Ireland. Her research interests include grassroots peacemaking organization and sectarianism in the workplace, especially in Northern Ireland. But she's also interested in organizational selves and identities, which may have a bearing on Dr. Song's topic of negotiating identities. And she's published on internet use among older adults. Dr. Wayne Iba, professor of computer science, has a PhD from University of California at Irvine. Prior to joining Westmont, he was a research scientist for NASA, working on artificial intelligence, and worked for the FBI on their automated fingerprint identification system. He's published widely on issues of artificial intelligence, but has long been interested in ethical issues raised by technology. Dr. Iba will be the first respondent.
Thank you, Paul. And if I can just have like an extra 20 seconds, I just want to say how great it was to hear it in your voice. I've read it 3 times in my own head, and I learned more from this reading than all 3 of those. So, I don't know. Thank you. At any rate, I got 5 minutes, right? Don't say that. I've got a timer and everything. I'm grateful for Felicia's stimulus to learn new things and to think about familiar things in new ways. Many papers I read trigger a, that's interesting response, and then I promptly forget about it. Regarding reading Felicia's paper, I thought, this can't be right, can it? And then I kept thinking about it, and I'm still thinking about it. So I'm especially grateful for the way that Felicia treats this entire subculture as a real and legitimate set of relationships, a real community, which unfortunately contrasts with frequent representations as, unreal or not real relationships for any computer-mediated communities and relationships. So I really appreciate that. But as you might guess, if my reaction was, this can't be right, can it? I have lots of questions, issues, and concerns. But given 5 minutes, maybe you'll let me go a little bit longer. But most of them are going to have to wait for hoped for conversations in the future with Felicia. So I want to focus my time on my one concern, which has to do with validation and marginalization. So I confess that as I was reading this and rereading it, I experienced considerable discomfort. Had I somehow contributed to the marginalization of the mom bloggers? The fact that I had not been aware of mom bloggers prior to reading this paper might be proof either way. But what matters to me more than that is to acquire a better understanding of validation and its sources, as well as the point at which a group is indeed marginalized. So clearly cultures can and do embody explicit or implicit dismissal and marginalization. But how can we distinguish between such marginalization and a simple lack of interest, which would have characterized my position toward mom bloggers had I known about them? So recognizing my own bias to explain the felt marginalization on the part of these bloggers as the result of a lack of interest, I decided to do something to test my bias. I visited topmommyblogs.com. You can find it on the internet, and started looking around. The featured and top blogs, I looked at a handful of those, and indeed they were worse than what Felicia just described about in terms of selling out. So not willing to let that too quickly confirm my bias, I used the random feature. You can click on a button and get a random blog. And so I sampled 20 random blogs. And after reading all the posts that appeared on their front pages, I found 5 orphaned blogs where the last post was prior to mid-2014, and 11 blogs that were essentially pictures of kids and recipes. But I found the 4 remaining blogs I found them to be thought-provoking and engaging. Blogs that I could imagine following if I were to start reading blogs, which probably won't happen. And one in particular, simplified by Katie.com, really stood out for me. And I'm going to use her words to sort of summarize the rest of my concern here. So Katie writes, when you write a blog, you make the brave decision to share yourself with the world. Here's the catch. The world didn't ask you to share yourself. So you have to be comfortable and confident, knowing the world's reception of you may come with some hesitancy or mockery. As a writer, the fear of criticism has always been my greatest obstacle. Thankfully, with age and experience comes a boldness and realization that carpe diem can't be a philosophy, but instead must become a practice. Therefore, I've surrendered myself to the idea that my style, tone, personality may not be for everyone, and adopted an oh well and onward I go attitude. For me, this has fueled my ability to write consistently, and I've found personal satisfaction in a healthy balance of selfishness and submission. With this noted, I understand the criticism of bloggers these days, especially the pushback on the concept of ideology or excessive experts. But before this becomes a bashing of blogs, remember that these days everyone's an expert, and the problem isn't the experts, it's us. I blog to ensure others can connect and conspire. I believe there's something intangible that innately ties us together in terms of humanity, and the beauty of a diverse population is the opportunity to associate with others who share or challenge our beliefs and boundaries. However, the art of a competitive and critical culture is dangerous. While competition keeps us hungry, criticism contributes to a famine of appreciation. We can't appreciate what we don't understand, and we often fail to recognize expertise because of ego. My friends, she's closing, it's quite simple. While we make our mark, we need to look for those whose light makes us better versions of ourselves. Without assistance, simplicity cannot be achieved. Collaboration allows for growth. To live a simple life and grow is enough. In fact, it's more than most receive. And that's the end of her comments. And so in closing, I'd like to say, Felicia is such a light for me, and I look forward to growing from my continued conversations with her.
Thank you both for these wonderful thoughts. So I'm just going to address a couple things, or kind of assorted matters. Dr. Ibo raised a good question about when a group becomes marginalized, and what is the difference between being marginalized and having a lack of interest. And so I think what I was trying to do in this paper was to think of marginalization as, in the context of, there are lots of different kinds of bloggers, right? There's mom bloggers, there's sports bloggers, there's political bloggers, there's food bloggers, there's travel bloggers, there's dad bloggers, right? There's daddy bloggers out there. Why is it, with all these different kinds of bloggers, that when you hear mom blogger or mommy blogger, it feels sort of dopey compared to all these other types of bloggers? And the behind the curtain comment here is that I felt that going into this project of like, who are these dopey women, hanging out at this dopey conference? I want to find out, like, what is going on here, right? And so there's a way in which I think, as I was listening to your comments, it made me realize how much this paper and this work has also been my own journey of going in thinking, these people are not for real, they're just dopey, right? And then going there, spending time with it, going to conference after conference, you can ask my husband, right? He's seen the transformation, right? Where I would come back and by the end, by this past year, I was like, I think something real is happening. Like, there's really real community going on. Like, this isn't just a joke. Like, these women aren't just, spending this extra time hanging out, having dance parties. Like, something is actually happening. And so I think what I'm trying to do with the idea of marginalization is to capture the ways in which when we encounter certain categories of people, there's an automatic reaction of dismissal, right? And so mom bloggers are automatically dismissed within the broader social media industry. They're automatically dismissed even by other women bloggers, right? And so I think in that sense, the marginalization of mom bloggers is merely a window into asking these other questions about the marginalization of mothers, right? Because it's mom bloggers qua mothers, right? It's as mothers. Like, that's the part of it that feels very difficult and problematic to me. Like, what is it about their motherhood that has that reaction in people that they think, oh, this is just ridiculous, or they don't know what they're really talking about. They can't be serious. They can't be professional. They're mothers, right? So that's the part that I'm interested, I think, in exploring. On to Dr. Dunn's comments about community. The work on Robert Wuthnow, I say here, and I think the move I want to make in conversation with Wuthnow is that virtual communities and blogging communities feel easy for us because of the modular communities that he's talking about, right? Like, society has already moved to a place where we have these porous boundaries and we can choose to just leave when we want to and things like that, and we're looking for the best ones. And so then when we're presented with online scenarios where we can benefit from the bonds, right, and have emotional support, the screen isn't that much of a barrier anymore, right? Because we've already made a fundamental shift, right? It's kind of easy. And so I think the troubling part for me is that when it does move online is this commodification of the community, right? That I find really troublesome, and I don't know what to do with it, right? When you have corporate entities that want to make money, right, off of this very precious cultural space for people. Now, Bourdieu, we could go on forever about. I want to do more with Bourdieu. He's got really interesting concepts. Habitus that was the part I cut out of the paper altogether, but I think these women who are in the blogosphere actually, I have ideas about how they might actually occupy different types of habitus, and that the women, certain kinds of women succeed in mom blogging economically because they have certain dispositions and kind of world frames. As to the civic potential of mom blogs, I think this is really interesting, and this ties in with your comment about these women of color who have their own conference. Now, just to kind of make clear, it's not like they've been segregated. It's not, it's like many of these women who are at Blogalicious also attend these other conferences, and they're very prominent in those other conferences as well. What I have found interesting about the discourse in the Blogalicious conference is that there is there's more conversation about the civic impact of blogs among especially Black women who are talking about giving back to their communities. That language is much more, it's much closer on their fingertips, and I think they think about their blogs in that way, in ways that I don't hear in other blogging conferences, which I think is really interesting. and I haven't quite figured out where to go with that. But yes, I would like to write a separate paper about women of color bloggers, because I think there's something interesting going on, and they too feel marginalized, right, as women of color within the particular blogosphere. As to all the things I left out, methodology, what did I do? Did I scare? I came home with lots of swag. And I struggled a lot with this paper, knowing what to cut and things like that. I'm happy to answer questions more directly, but it was definitely an immersive experience. I do not have a mommy blog or a mom blog. I do have 2 abandoned blogs, unfortunately, one that are calling my name all the time, like, come back. But it has been, like I said, the actual data collection process has been, I feel like is getting written more and more into the work, right? That I am myself going through the process of validating these women, because I came in with assumptions about who they were, and I'm trying to understand in myself, right, why did I start off with those assumptions, and who are these people actually? So I'll stop there and let the ladies.